And colleagues, I've got the messages up, so please, I'll be sort of the DJ running the comments on the side. So thank you, beautiful May, for wishing her well. We're so thrilled to have you all here. So AJ, you've got a screen in front of you that's your PowerPoint slides?
Yes, I've got the slides. That's what I can see. I'm so sorry.
Angel, don't be.
All right.
No, sweetness, it's great. The assessors have got your slides. That's all that's needed. And as I said to you, in some ways, it's a much more interesting experience for everybody watching it because we get to see you rather than just sort of. Okay, now
Okay.
are you
Ruby
near?
might join us. Ruby
What,
is one.
sweetheart?
Ruby might join us. She does like to say hello to Tara.
I
So
love
Ruby's
Ruby.
one of my cats.
Morning, Ruby. Morning,
Uh,
Ruby. We need more women with cats. The revolution begins with women with cats. So AJ, if you're comfortable, I'll do the formal start now, shall I? You right, darling? Okay,
yes.
so colleagues, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Cheers to you all. Cheers, cheers, cheers. And welcome to this incredibly special, moving event. For those of you that came in late, my name is Tara Brabazon, and it's my great pleasure to present this mid-thesis review, the difficult middle child candidature moment for Flinders University. And the remarkable woman that you see in this enormous screen in front of you is Alison-Jane Hunter. And she is a remarkable human being. Like so many people on the planet, she's been on a journey through her life, and that journey has brought her into our lives today, and that remains a great pleasure. So I commence with an acknowledgement of country, acknowledging the traditional owners of all the lands on which we meet today, elders past, present and emerging, and any Indigenous colleagues with us today. And I particularly, in this Māori Language Week, I wish you all a very good morning from Aotearoa, New Zealand. It's also my great pleasure to welcome our remarkable three assessors, international assessors in multiple time zones. Firstly, I need to say a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and late good night to the legendary Liam. Liam is a senior lecturer and program lead, recently promoted. We love you, Liam, in criminology and sociology at Leeds Trinity. We've got the legendary Mark. So many things I can say about this remarkable man. Incredible researcher, awarded teacher and supervisor, associate professor at Old Dominion University. And we've got the truly fabulous Elaine with us, executive director of Canadian Mental Health, the Mental Health Association in northern BC, right up in Prince George. So this is terribly exciting. So our assessors span from Prince George, right at the top of Canada, to Chesapeake, Virginia, to Manchester, England. This is exciting. We thank you more than I can convey in language for your time and for your expertise. You will change AJ's life, you will change my life today, and you will change the lives of the people who have the privilege of listening to you today. And we also welcome a wonderful audience that I'm about to get terribly excited to meet shortly. We're thrilled that you are here. So colleagues, today we'll move incredibly quickly. AJ will speak for 15 minutes. The assessors will then ask questions for 15 minutes, and then we will open the floor. Now, we're going to keep to time because AJ is a teacher, and she is literally in a classroom teaching at the conclusion of this hour, as am I. So, AJ, we wish you every success. We are with you, girlfriend, and whenever you're ready, let's hear it, my darling.
Thank you so much. And honestly, thank you to everybody. You're incredible. Okay, so my SOC is my title. Late Style, a contemplation of the relationship between an epistemology of displacement and the subversive displacement of creative writing. As I say, I was fairly lost. I couldn't see an overarching theory. I could see ways into text, and I really wanted them. And I explored and explored. Things went, extraordinary. And then Tara stepped in, and she said, she was the first person to read everything apart from my mum. And she said, darling girl, look at Late Style. And I picked up my Edward Said. I'd read quite a bit of him. I hadn't read this, and went, oh my God, this is what I need. So I've been looking at ways of knowing. Ways of knowing is something that's interested me for a very long time. It's an international baccalaureate subject, so I've taught it. I've thought about it. I've thought about how it applies. And so the whole thing began to come together. And those of you who can see my PowerPoint, that is a picture of Sam, who stars in the novel and is one of my little cats. Okay, so thank you from the bottom of my heart for your time, expertise, and support with this milestone, which is really different from what I thought it was going to be and anything I've ever seen, really. And so I'm really excited as well as scared to be here, and I'm really looking for your advice. I can't express the gratitude that I feel for Tara. She's rescued me and my thesis. A seismic shift has approached, and that's where late style comes in. I have struggled with it. There were quite a few weeks. I went, Tara, this is my problem this week. I can't square this one. And she'd go, yeah, look at this. And I'd go, oh, yeah, that solves that one. And then the next week I'd have a new problem. And then it came together and I managed to do the reading round it and it made sense to me. And then I could write the hell out of it. So today there's obviously the introduction, the order of slides is here, timeline to completion, extant material, concepts of late style, some of my questions, obviously there are more, and then some stuff on problems and solutions, strengths and weaknesses, and the relationship between the novella and the research. Okay, so November 23, the original supervisory team ditched me. March 24, Tara came on board, thank God. May, I managed to boost the novel significantly. I'd got the first 2/3 written and I knew it was too concise. I've spent the last 10 years of my life contracting everything I touch in writing, and I had to really work out ways of boosting it so that I had the detail really in there. September, I managed to get the fair draft of chapter 1 on late style completed. Now we're doing the milestone presentation. I'm about to fly to England in about a week and a half, just over a week. And I fully intend to get a good draft of the last third of the novel together. Those of you who've had a chance to look will know that I've got the outline. I just need to go back and get that ending done and then revise all the breadcrumbs as I go through.
Yeah.
After I've done that, I will keep revising. In January, I will fix up the chapters that we've got. I mean, it's not just January, obviously, but that's when I want to get that done so I can give it to Tara as good as I can. And then I keep revising things. And then there's a chapter 4 that I hope we will be able to talk about, done by August. And then by October, I should be able to get everything done. And then we do 10 revisions to submission. Now, my timeline runs to, the end of 2025. I don't believe that I need that much time. I just need to be able to concentrate. And there should be enough time to be able to submit early. The idea is that this is the last milestone. Right, in terms of extant material, so I've got a table that I'm looking at. It says chapter type status, approximate current length. So the conceptual elements of late style is new, good draft, ready for revision. It's about 8,500 words. Then I've got some sections that are part of that revision from my very first version of my thesis. And that's of aligned feminist theory from the earlier iteration. I will redirect and steal bits of that, pop them in. And it should offer about 5,000 words. There's a chapter on linguistic mastery of style. And that and the one on literary mastery of style need to be re-angled to late style. And I can see ways of doing that. I've sort of tweaked top and tail of it, interim, conclusion, and the introduction. They're about 10,000 words each. And the novel at the moment, first 2/3 are done, and it's about 25,000 words. So there's a fair chunk there to feel that it's possible to finish. I really like tables. I can see tables all over the place. So if we look first at concepts of late style, to me, it's all about the ability to hold multiple chaotic and divergent strands of thinking in a single artifact. And this derives from the closeness of death. It enables an incompleteness that allows fracture to open up new questions. It offers high engagement through that fracture, as it requires layers of questions to be dealt with by the reader. Exile, illness, disability, and imminent death are key features of the conceptualization of the artifact. And that's where I started with what I wanted to look at. So, actually, what's extraordinary is that Tara's come in at this point and gone, this is what you need, because this will pull it together. And that's exactly how it works. There was a joyous moment when I went, I can use my old stuff, can't I? And she said, yes. And now I can see how I really can. So that's your first strand. It's the conceptualization. The second strand is mastery of form. So it asks questions like, what are the structures of novel writing that enable engagement between writers and readers? And that's a long-term conversation that's been going on. But I think there are some really interesting new ways of looking at it. What are the features of novel writing mastery that operate at lexical, sentence, and chapter levels that open up expectations of themes and concepts? Now, again, you can hear the linguist in me coming through. The language stuff that I'm doing here, by the way, don't panic, is completely new to me. But it makes a lot of sense because this is the stuff that I've been doing since about 1986 when I was an undergrad. And I was incredibly lucky with who I had at Birmingham at that time. It was extraordinary. Those people are amazing. So analysis of how this enables the writer to have consciousness of both completion and fracture. That to me is a really interesting balance to hold. And then conscious knowledge of the tension between fracture and mastery of form enables sustained writing for the writer and engagement by the responder. And this works really well. And maybe we need to bring in things like reader response theory. There are a few things that we could bring in there. Okay. So I kind of had three major questions. They're not the only questions. But my first question is, where do I go next in the exegesis? Do I bring in reader response theory to analyze my own work in chapter 4? Would that be too much or too old-fashioned? I've relied on, second point, I rely on Mike Hoey for my linguistic analysis. I'm proposing to use Kate Forsyth and Fiona McIntosh as my key describers of mastery for form from a structural perspective. Hoey is a linguist and so looks at pure form. Forsyth and McIntosh are successful writers and so examine form from a more overarching active perspective, leading to successful publication and a wide readership. And I'm wondering quite how many more I need to cite and what the balance needs to be between the theoreticians and those who are working practically in the field. My third kind of big question is, should I trace structure through someone like Ishiguro, whose every novel is significantly different, to show the development of late style in form? Would that be sufficient? I mean, he has a huge body of work to draw on. Or is it enough to analyze my own work in chapter 4? In terms of context, I've long been fascinated by the location of diverse forms of trauma in literary texts. Whilst the answer to the question where the voices of the excluded is often given as in the silences, I've always felt very unsatisfied by this answer. It's too easy. And this PhD has always been searching for more answers. I've searched across a wide range of theories and examined a wide range of more unusual devices. Doing this has allowed me to identify encoded representations of silence that reveal other voices. And structurally, I want to privilege this. I feel the mastery element of late style is a natural place to reveal how women, notably those with disabilities and divergent thinking, have shown oppression. Should I group this investigation by gender, divergence, or other overarching themes? I have a lot of problems with feminism. It seems to me that we're in a post-feminist world with trans women and all the rest of it. There's only so much I can cover, but I'm curious about quite where I can sit. Currently, I've organized by text and then concept. So my question is this enough? Should I tabulate the correlations and divergences for enhanced clarity? I've done this for the first 3 sentences of each of the texts that I work with. Do I also do it for themes as well as structure? And do I make this work? How do I make this work at a practical level? In terms of problems and solutions, over the past 5 years, I've had 5 major surgeries per year. These have ranged from life-saving emergencies to an evolving program of structural surgeries, replacing joints destroyed by arthritis. So, hello, mate. Look, I'm not in a wheelchair. I can stand, I can walk. I've relearned to walk and about to give away that wheelchair and all other medical aids. So that's been really powerful. But of course, I deeply understand how disability works, messes with your head and produces, oh, that's my normal meeting time, and produces an effect on others that is then pushed back on the recipient. My work situation fell apart, and I have accepted a full-time job in a new situation, which also involved, I can't speak today, sorry, which involved moving to country South Australia. I started living in my daughter's shed until I could find a place of my own. That was an exciting moment. The material move happened across several months, highly stressful, still trying to unpack my possessions in quieter moments. The new position is challenging. My mother has been living with a diagnosis of stage 4 cancer for many years. She has recently been diagnosed with full renal failure alongside other complications, with a life expectancy measured in weeks, really now. She's currently in hospital. I spoke to her this morning. I'm going to commute to the UK around work and mum's situation on top of everything else. So, that's just going on in the background, tickety-boo. References. Tara very correctly points out that I tend to write what I think rather than what everybody else thinks. And she's absolutely right. It's a very naughty habit of mine. So I'm currently averaging about 20 references per chapter, but the first chapter is much stronger. That's the one that Tara's kicked off with me, and that's over 50. I understand that somewhere around 80 to 100 per chapter. I'm less sure how to put that in the later chapters, but building up the references is, I know, something that I've got to do. When I'm doing, if chapter 4 is really focused on my work, I'm not sure how I put references together for that. My final slide is how what I'm doing in the novella supporting the investigation of late style. What I'm trying to do is to define, connect, and disconnect key conceptual elements of late style so that I can imbue my novel with a philosophical framework that enables and sets out to co-construct new thinking at points of crisis in physical and emotional exile over time. By playing with the directions of time, shifting geographical locations, and evoking multiple generations of the women in one family, I seek to replicate the chaos that enables divergent, simultaneous understandings that open up new sets of thinking. I'm trying to isolate key elements of mastery of technical control of novel writing through linguistic and literary analysis, and then demonstrate these forms of control in my own writing. And in this sense, I argue that the artifact is very clearly an exemplification of my own mastery and original understandings of the twin aspects of late style. Thank you.
Well done, AJ. So incredibly well done. And can I say, AJ, it's one of the weird things. I'll go straight to the assessors, but one of the weird things is you take the PowerPoint away, you forget what remarkable presentations look like before PowerPoint destroyed public speaking. So, AJ, that was amazing. So as colleagues have worked out, this is an artifact exegetical thesis. It's an important thesis. This event matters a great deal to AJ. She's been on a journey. She's got a very difficult 2-3 months in front of her. We wish her mother and her family every peace, every hope, and a good journey for your mother. But we'll now move, bless her, we'll now move to the assessors. And what I'll do, colleagues, is I'll go around each of the assessors for one question at a time until perhaps I've exhausted you. And we'll start with the most exhausted person. We better start with Liam, because it's about 10:30 at night in Manchester, Liam.
Yes, and I'm on a work laptop that just doesn't like Zoom, so it pulled me out of the room for momentarily, and now I'm back again. But I heard all the important bits of the discussion, and thank you,
So where would you
AJ,
like to
thank
take
you.
us, Leo? Where would you like to take us?
Um, so that beautifully summarizes, I think, both the artifact exegesis and the actual write-up. So I'm a sociologist, and I was very, very interested in your deployment of Edward Said. You went for like it's late style. I get that. Um, Most sociologists seem to use kind of like an understanding, utilize and deploy within their work, Orientalism, which is not really present in this piece.
Yeah.
Um, Also, as well, when I was reading the actual exegesis, I made some little notes because it kind of took us on a journey. So I think chapters 2 and 3 there was a number of what I thought were research questions, and structurally, I think that needs grounding into one or two or three overall research questions. Okay, so like there's like 5, 6, 7, 8 questions, and I was kind of a bit confused about where that was going. But then I found myself when I reread it again, the chapter again, it just needed a second read. So I think structure is really, really important. I might be saying something a bit controversial, what might go outside of what the examiners feel. Um, but the Cannock Girl, the actual novel, um, could that speak for the whole exegesis write-up? So your actual thesis, rather than deploying bits of different literature and you doing a textual analysis of such. And I think that that would take some revision. So, maybe speak with Tara about that. That might not be feasible for the thesis. I get that. And then another divergent point here. It really read to me as a sociologist, reading your exegesis, reading your write-up. You got to chapter 4. There are elements of and Tara's going to hate me for saying this, but Bourdieusian sociology here, Weight of the World, his very last book about
Yeah,
social suffering.
you're right.
And that's where he fuses together the work of like Norbert Elias, who writes that suffering in society is a civilizing process. And I think that's where Sayed picks up on that as well with late style. So I think there's other sociologists that have kind of utilized this late form. So Weight of the World, which is kind of like an autoethnography of three Parisians suffering through colonialism, through the colonization of Algeria, the peasant, and the saxophone player. So I see bits of other work and bits of other sociological interests here. That's with my sociological hat on. So my key points are about form and presentation for the write up, deployment of theories that you might not have considered, and then finally, are you using late late style all the way through consistently?
While AJ is pondering that, so Liam, that's a magnificent series of questions. And I agree with you on Bourdieu. I believe in my less classy earlier years, I described Bourdieu as Althusser light, for which I apologize to my people. But can I also say Bourdieu does work with late style. Are you comfortable? I think that does mesh. I'm comfortable with that. And the only other point, while AJ's just gathering her thoughts, is this is often what happens, Liam, when multiple supervisors get involved, is that the research questions start to blow out. So as you've rightly said, now
Yeah,
our job is to get it to 2, 3, 4. And I think they're pretty easily configured. But what's happened is multiple supervisors have said what the research questions are, and poor AJ's clung onto them. So AJ, how would you like to engage with the amazing Liam and brilliant ideas there?
No, that's fantastic. I will absolutely. I have small knowledge of budget. I will make sure that it's large knowledge now. That's great.
AJ,
And it will
I was
allow me to bring things in. In terms of going to
mm,
other texts, I guess that was very much me looking at mastery. So that's the strand that falls in. I need to clarify that more, obviously. You know, it's like, yeah, mum asks questions and she goes, have I just been stupid? And I laugh at her and go, no, you just told me well, I haven't explained it well enough. That's what I need you for. She's amazing. So that I think will need some more clarity. Yes, those questions were designed really for another thesis.
okay.
What I'm hoping to do as I revise this, point everything up. So the first thing that Tara said was it needs a lot more analysis. And I'm sitting there because I am an optimist going, yes, absolutely, I agree with you. And how lucky that I didn't spend too many hours on it, because now all the analysis is angled first time to the overarching theories. And so that makes a lot more sense. I really wanted to test that really established writers do these particular things that if I look at those triggers, primings, that I can find them. So it could be that I've got overkill, in which case we shorten that significantly. And of course, I still haven't quite finished the novel. So until I finish the novel, I can't really analyze it heavily.
I think that's a great answer. And Liam, what if we make one of the research questions around the theory of mastery, which seems to wrap up a lot of
Yes.
what you've said there?
That will tie it together. It needs an anchor, right? I
Yeah.
think that's what it needs. And I just wanted to say, the Borgesian lens, if it doesn't work for you, don't use it.
Yeah.
I was thinking of his last book, Weight of the World, before he died. And he was never able to fully kind of master like style. Um, but it just kind of sung to me kind of other stuff that I've read. I would also say as well, the actual novel, and I'm not an expert on creative writing, but I think that this can be kind of condensed and maybe shortened. I know it's a labor of love, but you've got a PhD to write. So I would really maybe truncate that a little bit, because it's like, is it 22 chapters? Chapter 21. Yeah, it's in three parts, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think that may be kind of like a tightening there, and make it shorter, because, and then, tell the story in another novel, once you've got the PhD, you know, just
Well,
save yourself time.
well said, Liam. So the artifact exegetical component, it can be a novel, it can be a novella. And I suppose also, Liam, we're conscious of AJ's future trajectories as well for this novel. So, it is an historical novel. Liam, I thank you so much. That with a bit of luck, we might have time to return back. But look, before I go to Mark, could I go to Elaine now? Elaine, we mightn't have you for video, but hopefully we've got you for sound. Elaine, could you demute for us?
Yes, so I'm here, and I'm so sorry, everyone, and Allison-Jane, I'm so sorry I can't make my video work. Zoom has not been working for me lately. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry. What would you like to say to AJ? What questions, what's of interest to you, Elaine?
Well, I have two quick comments, and then I don't have a question. I have a wonder.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So your work, narrative inquiry from a decolonization perspective, echoes throughout this. The work of Maria Lugones and her world traveling with loving perception and women learning to love each other.
Yes.
Just sorry. Your work is so profound and has really shook me. So I have a wonder for you, not a question. What will the world look like when you share your work?
Oh my God.
And what might the world look like if you don't share your work?
What a question. Oh, AJ. So firstly, I've just got to get myself back together. I don't know about everybody else. We're just all getting ourselves back together. And Elaine, thank you for that. I think that is so powerful about women and women learning to love and connect in a different way, outside of patriarchy, if that's possible. And I really thank you for that provocation. We will work that through. And AJ, are you in a position now to answer the wonderful statement made by Elaine about what this thesis would give to the world if it does continue when you finish, and what would we lose if we lost you?
That's a really difficult question.
I better mute myself.
Yes.
What I'm hoping is that I can, and speak for those of us who have kept silent, for those of us who have been abused, and that I can enable others to find words. That's what I want to do, so that I'm not the center of the world in any way. I'm just small. I don't count for much. But if I can trigger freedom through acceptance of chaos and ways of finding those words and expressing those words, and other people understanding how to recognize what they're seeing, that maybe I've lived for a purpose.
All right. I'm going to need to be heavily medicated
Thank you.
at the
So
conclusion of this. Elaine, how powerful was that? Elaine, anything else you'd like to say to AJ? That's the most incredible provocation. That will help us enormously. Anything else, Elaine?
Just quickly, so that means what you're doing is heavy on the action work, that you have this gift. And trust me, my PhD and master's it was really hard. I didn't have a Tara. Your work is so important, and the end does come. But my wonder for you was to help you cross that finish line. Okay.
How much do we love Elaine, everybody? How much do we love Elaine? Can I say they're very lucky in Prince George to have you, Elaine, but we are so lucky to have you with us. And again, we may return once more to you. Let's go to Mark. # Mark, no pressure, brother. Mark, where would you like to take our AJ now with questions and conversations and provocations? Hi, Mark.
Hi. Okay. That sort of changes. That does change. I didn't really per se have a question. I just wanted to have a chat. Because it's and I know better now why Tara asked me. Because I was like, how am I going to be useful to this? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, hang on, I can, yeah, okay. So one of the things that that occurs to me, and this is always a fun one, is it's one of the ways I tease out my grad students, is that I tell them that I like my authors thoroughly dead. And it's not, I don't mean harm on anyone. I also tell them that. And as an aside, when Tara said that she calls Borgia Althusser light, I do something similar, and I remind my students that habitus is really just interpolation plus a body. That doesn't complicate things at all. So anyway, so if we could go back to this notion of the author being, I do like my authors thoroughly dead, but I don't trust readers. And that's sort of the punchline, because I don't necessarily always trust readers. And so for me, that's the starting point of a conversation. And that's really, I just want to maybe tease that out a little bit, because and here I'm not going to give advice, because I don't give advice. I'll tell you what I know. But one of my colleagues who used to be across the hall from me, and I inherited his office when he retired, and he was a poet. And his advice to everybody was strip things away to the simplest. So he would say, I don't care what you're writing, start with couplets and go with couplets and strip it away to the, be almost radically formulaic, and stick to the genre and stick to the formula. And so in there somewhere, and we can go back to feminism and gender. I could talk about gender all for days, and Tara knows this, and she'll stop me. But I just want to talk about the author. I just want to talk about locating the author.
Yep. Yeah. How do you position yourself, AJ, while you're pondering that? So that's amazing, Mark. So in some ways, what Mark is talking about is the death of the reader. You and I both have some challenges with Foucault. So it's the death of the reader, as well as the death of the writer. So it's the death of everybody, really. So we're interested in the death of everybody. But where do you position yourself? And you can go to author function if you so choose. You can go to the Barthes rendering. You can go to the Foucault rendering. What is your, and I'll use the word, what is your positioning in all of this, AJ, and how overt and reflexive are you going to be in that positioning? You ready to have a go for Mark? How are you going, AJ?
Yeah. My process is to try and release stories, whether they are mine or somebody else's. And the twist is not my story. The twist is a story my mother's told me about my grandmother. So it goes there. The main protagonist is based on my mother. My mother is an international concert pianist, viola player, all of those things. She's never been to Syria. I've never been to Syria. I have very close friends who are Syrian. A girl I taught, I call her my Syrian daughter. She addresses me as mum, and I am teta to her children, her grandmother. So I have intimate connections with these stories, but they're also not just mine. I guess what's mine is the feelings. It's the emotions that I've experienced that I then gather stories together to express. The bombings. When Madeline, my daughter, was tiny, I took her to a reject shopping centre of Oxford, and we'd got some stuff. I was all ready to go to the till. And then the order came, run. And I just dropped everything, grabbed the child and left. And we ran almost down the Iffley Road. I mean, we ran miles to get there. And so when my friend Bassam talked about bombing, he's Palestinian as well. He knew Saeed. When he talks about bombings, when he talked to me about, I mean, he's amazing. He is an incredible international superstar. And he told me about wanting to go to school, and the teachers went on strikes and he couldn't learn. And I saw the child in him. It nearly broke me, but I could connect enough to do, I hope, justice to those realities, and then fictionalize them to make them through. Hilary Mantel says you always need a village idiot because readers don't understand what you're writing. And for me, the village idiot, and of course we know from Shakespeare that the fool is always the wisest person in the group, is little Sam, who's just asleep over there and is also in late style. She's had a hell of a life, but I use her to commentate and clarify for the reader where I'd like them to go. So where am I in all of this? I see myself as a facilitator. I started the whole of this journey with no idea what I wanted to do other than this is the moment to write, and this is the way to do writing that matters, at least for me, because of the theory component. Tara presented about the creative PhD. And I went along because I could, and I wanted to support her, and I went to support her. And in about 3 seconds, I was on the edge of my deeply uncomfortable seat, clutching my what turned out to be a very delicious biscuit, going, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I wanted that freedom to explore, because when I researched before, I knew what was going to happen, because it was the outcome of a life of learning, and it was about how we learn. And I really enjoyed it, and I proved everything, and that's great. But I was so unsatisfied at the end of it, because the newness was to other people and not to me. And this
Powerful.
time I wanted that freshness for me, and to balance the language and literature side of me. And maybe to write the novel is not the novel my father would have written, but he never got his novel finished. So I wanted
And
to
you
do
will
that.
get this finished. AJ, I think that's remarkable. And colleagues, I think the notion of releasing a story, so releasing and curation are the verbs and the nouns that we're going to carry forward here. Now, Mark, do you want to just go once more before we open it up for colleagues? And Liam, I see that you had a query too. Let's go Mark to Liam, and then we might only have 5 minutes for question time, but I welcome that. So Mark, go for it, brother.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's fantastic, because and you'll get this done. This will be done. And the other thing is, I had one of the thoughts I had there is, in terms of the gendering and the feminism, although it's not always as wonderful, as highly regarded as it was, I think this one sort of lends itself to potentially a really, really useful and productive. And I think it could be, one of those ones that makes the field stop and, for a moment, I think rethinking the idea of the that Carol Gilligan talks about in a different voice, that we've gotten away from that. And I think you're reminding me of that, but you're reminding me of it in really, really productive ways, and having this, a moment to go, what, let's rethink this. This is making me rethink that. And that's awesome when that happens. And the second one, and maybe this will turn over to Liam, and maybe it's better to his territory, but I was also thinking as you were speaking, and I was thinking earlier, I was really glad Liam brought up autoethnography, because I was actually thinking of collaborative autoethnography, and as a hybrid form. And I'm just going to throw that out there and stop, right?
Wow.
Yeah, years and years ago when I was an undergrad, I was so lucky, because it was the days you just learned stuff. It wasn't about ticking boxes and getting a transcript and all this rubbish. This lovely, exciting, important stuff. So I read a whole load of autoethnography, and what I was reading about was because I was always interested in women's voices, and what I read about was how trans women were being trained, and we're going back 70s, 80s, were being trained to become women. Oh God, even the language is wrong. But there's stuff there, how do women speak? How do women communicate? How do we, let's be, more contemporary, please. How do we release that from trans women so that they really can be women, which they are?
Right, so my brain's just exploded. So collaborative autoethnography is crucial here. I was working with popular memory, Mark, but I think that's a better solution. I think that's a better solution to this. Liam, and then we'll open the floor up, noting that Elaine's put this incredible comment. She's just gone boof in the comments, gone knowledge democracy. And like my head's just exploded there. Thank you, Elaine. So Liam, move us into the question time. What final comment would you like to offer, Liam?
Yeah, I was just thinking with the autoethnography. So I discussed this your novella, and also your exegesis with a taxi driver, because I thought I was in a taxi in Manchester. I was going I think where was I going? It was this weekend anyway. I was going to my friend's house in Levenshulme on the other side of Manchester, and I thought I need to explain this to somebody who has no idea about any of this. And the taxi driver said to me, this novel, this novella, has so much salience. Well, in other words, he said in his words, like it's so current and it will be a good seller, especially in the Arab world, for example, especially writing about Syria, the Middle East, and what's actually happening right now in the Middle East with Gaza, etc. Like it sings to those tragedies so much, but 100 years apart, and it's so real. And we can see those tragedies unfolding and how the history is kind of like repeating itself over and
I think
over
it's a
again.
continuum, isn't it? I mean, if you
Yeah,
see it as part of the decolonization that was so incomplete, and
yeah,
so the chaos is picking up. Oh, here you are, Roby. Picking up. Oh, hello. Picking up to be completely gorgeous. Picking up to to work through that, but in true late style, it can't be completed, and that's a lot of the fundamental reason why there is so much trauma there.
Wow.
yeah. I really see that, and thank you for exploring that as well. Like it has been truly remarkable this session, and I've learned so much from you, AJ, as an examiner. And just how this is unfolding. Like this is going to be something really powerful, and I think that you need to remember that.
Thank you, Liam. And colleagues, of course, it's a great paradigm. AJ, hang in there, sweetheart. You deserve this. Absorb this, Angel. You deserve this. Baby, you do. And it's a great example of don't give up, right? When a bunch of people are telling you, and it happens particularly in creative-led PhD, sadly, when they're saying, no, this is rubbish, no, this is not good enough, those people would be wrong. So we've got about, sadly, 4 minutes, colleagues, for which I apologise, but who would like to ask a question from the wonderful colleagues who have got up early in the morning, late at night to be with us? Who'd like to ask a question of AJ? And please just, if you don't want to put your hand up, just speak, say hello.
Hello, mate.
Hello. Hi, AJ. I've known AJ for years. So through a number of iterations, which I've also had, AJ. So we're in this long haul creative PhD deal, and the end will come. To be honest, it's been just mega session. And so my mind is blown. I don't have like a erudite, brilliant question, but I'm keen to hear maybe some really practical stuff. How many words are you thinking for your exegesis, and how many words are you thinking for the novel? And I really took on board Liam's comment, which I think was that you had like 22 chapters you were wanting to do. And also just a wild throw in, when I'm talking about other writers, mine is the cultural studies PhD meets the novel, as Tara once said. But what I'm currently doing is putting stuff about writers that I'm reading as I go. I'm putting that in appendices. So I thought I'd just throw that in.
Perfectly possible to do that. I mean, I have, as you and I know, we were both trained to do a kind of writing diary, as though that could be the exegesis. And I see that going as an appendix. So that is a clever idea of how to do that. I like that very much. The shaping and the number of chapters really comes from Kate Forsyth and is about what it should look like and how many chapters are expected. So that's kind of part of mastery. But of course, there's always questions about how long a chapter is. So, but I think it will come together as a novella. I think so. I looked at sort of Vonnegut and people like that, and I'm thinking there's a whole tranche of people hit about 45, 50,000. And I think that's probably where I'll get up to. And then this time. And then what I need to do is just have all those extra words for the exegesis where I need it, and play the appendices.
Oh, Sorry to interrupt. I did have a thought for you, a practical thought. So I was in the same position of sometimes having a lot of references and sometimes having not enough. And how I solved that problem, because Tara asked the same thing of me. She wanted me to up the references. I also tend to say what I've always thought or whatever. And I went to a librarian for that. And I had maybe 3 big sessions with a librarian and relearned how to look for work. And that did have a very big impact on my capacity to go back into something and add more references into something I'd already done. And yeah, so I think if you're working with a more literary supervisor than Tara, they're looking for 70,000 words in the creative PhD and 30 to 40 in the exegesis. So the thing about the how many words is absolutely movable according to what supervisor you're working with and what thoughts you're having.
Maeve, can I also make the points
Yeah.
about the regulations too? So an exegesis has got to get over 40,000 words.
Sure.
That's what it is. So,
Yeah.
and of course the artifacts can be video, the artifacts can be epic
Yeah.
poems.
Okay.
There's a lot more diversity there, but the exegesis, as Liam said, has got to demonstrate a SOC as a 100,000 word thesis would deliver.
Yeah.
But AJ, you want to offer a comment on that, noting we're nearing the end?
Oh, no, just I agree with you. And I do need to go back to the library. That will help as well. But now that I'm finding, more places to start, I sit and read all their references. And then I start digging with those and look at what spirals up from that as well. And that allows me to see which names keep cropping up. So I must use them, but also, who's emerging so that I can use them.
Beautiful. Well done. Now, colleagues, any final question at all? We've perhaps got time for one more.
I have a final comment, please.
Please, Elaine.
I wrote Knowledge Democracy because Alison-Jane, it changed my life. It's how we honor knowledge systems so we're not coming from that place of negativity that Bourdieu tends to, but I understand the space and place that he's coming from. I will send Tara a link to watch a webinar, but it is a game changer. And I read Knowledge Democracy where you're getting there, and it's so important so that we don't feel less than in the ways that we walk and talk and live in this world. So sorry.
Don't be sorry, Elaine. Can I just say, Elaine and Mark demonstrates why we need more Canadians in the world. We just need more Canadians, right? We just need more Canadians. Can I thank our incredible assessors, Liam, Mark, and Elaine? I feel very different. I feel all a bit shaky. I feel all a bit weird. I've written notes all over my desk here. But colleagues, I just want to conclude by congratulating AJ. Obviously, the assessors will now do their work and decide what your future is, AJ. Hashtag no pressure. But what I would say is I gained a lot out of today thinking about the value of incompleteness, the value of liminality, and to quote AJ back at herself, the blessings of communicating through the fracture. So for those of you that are off to have a great night's sleep, we wish you well. For those of you about to go to hockey practice, Mark, thank you. And my love to your wonderful family. AJ, have a lovely day at work. Colleagues, thank you for your time. And let's all today communicate through a fracture. And let's change the world one person at a time. And that's just Elaine. Thank you, Elaine, for being you. You're the best. Bye, colleagues. See you on the other side. Thank you for your time. Love you, AJ.